Hello and welcome to this podcast to NoWhere. This is official episode number 1, I guess. I don't know. It's one of many, but I like that podcast to NoWhere. This phrase has come out of nowhere for me, and as I have nowhere to even post a true, actual podcast, what you would say, I lost my Spotify, and I'm not about to start jumping through all of these ridiculous hoops for these platforms, and everything is pay to play. The free versions are trash anyway. Nobody If you don't pay for all the premium things, no one sees your content unless they find you directly. It's I don't know. It's like too much for me. I don't even care about it. I don't have the time and capacity to look around and do all these things, and I don't have an income to be spending money on that. Why should I? It's free. I'm sharing nothing but my own intuitive insights and information I have come upon freely. So how dare would I charge for it, I guess. Charge to listen, or what? Thank me for listening with money only, subscribe to me, and no. That just doesn't fit my model. It doesn't work comfortably for me. I feel it has a very false presentation. Speaking of the false presentations, that's what I'm going to be speaking about today, in some ways. Today is April 21st, 2025, and like I said, this is episode number 1, I guess. My name is Allie with a.Marie.Speaks. If you're new, welcome. Thank you so much for clicking on my content and listening to me. If you're alive, organic, infinite intelligence, actually awake and activated, bless you. Thank you for being here. We are few, but yeah, hopefully stronger, the longer that we stay awake and move around, we get to, build more and see more and find more people alike to us, right? So thanks for being here, if you are here listening. Today, yeah, like I said, I'm going to talk about kind of hard things, hard truths, and angles, that we don't always want to be seen from, and what that means, and how we can honor that in a way that encourages us to seek more light and to be more truthful to our true selves in betterment, in progression, to just honor the state that you're in, not have to be seeking this perfect appearance or projection, or practice or any of that, but should just be who we are, which in this world is full of, myriad of different facets and reflections, some of them more pleasant than others. Everyone, I believe, mostly everyone, has things about themselves that, they wish to better, or bad habits, or dislikable characteristics, these kinds of habitual, ingrained, poorly aligned, or incorrectly put together even pieces that we kind of know we want to fix, but for some reason there's all of these impressions placed upon us here in this world, right? It's so interesting, the more that I continue to awaken and enlighten and seek, honesty with myself, and seek to be of good service, to be of service to others in a positive, productive manner. That feels good, because I do have lots of things to offer and share, and it feels wonderful to do those things, and I'd like to do more of it, and share with others who are in a similar frequency of aliveness and enjoyability and positivity. Because the conductivity, the conduciveness, and that the momentum that gets amplified when two positive people come together about things that enlighten, it's just takes off. But when we have catalytic negative around us, the experiences are different, right? And all experiences are valuable and wonderful. I really deeply own that. And I love that truth. It circles back to the one truth, and everything is a reflection of God, source. And everything has purpose, just as I have purpose. If I want to own and share and know my great deep purpose, then I need to extend that same likeness out to every other fractal life being here of creation. Because if God's bestowed mine, then hello, look around you. Everything else must be either of you or of like you. And therefore, you should be extending that same appreciation, sovereign respect, compassion, and love. Dare I say it? It's like, where's the love these days? Lately, I've been feeling like that. And also, I acknowledge that this is a reflection of my own self. Love is a difficult thing to do and give and be because it has so many facets. There's so many layers to it. And in this sort of place we're all placed in, whatever this is, this strict overlays, the restrictions, society, and just everything, you cannot these days not see that we're in highly negative times. Everybody's like really inflamed and irritated and super agitated and all about their thing and feeling like very cutthroat, that they're, winner takes all needs to be the top dog kind of thing. It's, survival of the fittest, survival, fear-based projections, and these sort of solutions that are always more restrictive, that are always more authority, that's always, the answer is always more. It's never less. It's so counterproductive to love, to positivity, free systems, service to others, freely offered service, positive service. And truth, honestly, because truth runs a positive service, lies are what bog down and bend around and break up positive service into negative service. That's, the core principle here. Now, we have, this is why sometimes lies I like to call distortion, and I love the different metaphors and ground that gets opened up when we sort of step away from, and we can have a designation of the difference between a negative, self-serving lie, as we would assume a lie is, manipulative bending of truth consciously with purpose to shield or hide something for, the sole benefit of another, against another, to manipulate an external person, to gain a footing upon them or something, that's the most immediate definition of lie and the working in it. And it's very valuable. And that term lie, maybe we could just designate as lie, Distortion, on the other hand, a distortion is a lie, like a square is a rectangle, but a rectangle can never be a square. Distortion can be positive, and we are always distorting things because we are these prismatic, multi-dimensional entities, of solid manifestation here in physical reality. We have corners and edges, we have layering, we are of a microbiome and a manyness of just the physical vessel alone, of the flesh and the body and of the earth, let alone the mind's body layering and all that has to do with the electric impulses and the processing and all the designations that come with sensory input and output and exchanges and those kinds of manners, and how information is exchanged in the mental mind body, right? And we have a spiritual body as well. And that in itself is an intangible, almost unexplainable. Everything else, just everything else is there. all valuables, variables align. The rest, to infinity. It's the 3.33333. They all have their infinite aspects. I mean, mental and body. Everyone is in itself turns into a great triad and reflects all three yet again inside its whole. That's the beauty of manyness. That's the beauty of fractalization and understanding creator consciousness, how consciousness grows and works, gains conscious awareness. It has processes. But anyway, so all of these three bodies, all of these three states make up this vessel, this prismatic entity of so many things. It's like an electromagnetic, static plasma vessel, prismatic kind of thing. It's and it's contains all of geometry, right? Sort of like squaring the circle and how all shapes grow, sacred geometry and the flower of life, and then the sphere circle of containment of all of it. I talk about this a lot with my system series, and I'll be getting back to that eventually, again diving deeper and creating some more visual workbooks to do some great learning through these, to understand and learn the languages so that we can all, gain and maintain more awareness around these three sort of entities and layers within ourselves, so that by harmonizing, by gaining tune within all of them, we harmonize the collective whole of ourselves much better, and we do so much better service. Because when we talk about the three coming together, the triad of the vessel, we talk about what's it coming together to do. Well, it comes together to do the work. The initial work births the triad. And what's the initial work? Well, the initial work is, the Taurus and the polarity and the service to self or to others, and that's the great choice. And that's the two that has come before the three. And of course, we have growing and change, and it's a defining of manyness and a growth of exploration. It's an adventure, I believe, of what this life is meant to be, and what sort of we could explain as the closest purpose behind Creator Source God's mind as to what this is all about. Why do we know what it's all about? So that we know what our purpose is. Better defining purposes, better define our time here, and we do better work, right? The better it gets, the better it gets. However, I'm sort of getting off on tangents, but this is what I'm defining about distortions, because the bending of the original one truth light, the original, original thought, so to speak, how we each get to become our fractal own imprint of God's source, that in itself is a distortion. And sort of like a prism creates a rainbow out of, one ray of light splitting it. That is it, right? That's an original distortion. Distortions can be beautiful. And so to designate them different than lie is, case in point, initially important. And then to realize the great gradient of the coloration chosen to do distortions for what working creates beauty or ugliness. And that's how we get back into understanding where lies lie on the spectrum. And understanding how they all sit on positive and negative service. Are we bending light in a negative sense that is detrimental to the whole, right? It's exclusionary, and it sort of doesn't care about if it could be harming or is directly harming another. And in doing that, or carelessly doing that, is in itself creating the negative distortion that is what we would call a lie, that we would say is harmful, you know? Other discoveries, when there's not this underlying intention or knowing, you know, are more of a mistake. And they are different coloration within the gradient. They might not be as bright or as beautiful or as well harmonized, say, as things that are beautiful distortions of creativity and, you know, evolution and growth. But they still need a place in space. You know, there's always the in-betweens. There's always the off one. Like, think of masterpiece. Think of a master artist who creates many paintings. You know, there's the highlights, there's the great ones, there's the ones before they became quite a master. You know, there's their student work. They try different techniques. There's different stages and phases. This is, you know, or any craft, or any person who learns a thing, right? Let that metaphor create a bit more definition of what I'm talking about, hopefully a little bit more clarity if people are looking for it. Creating our own and making our own mistakes and seeing things from our own perspective is that great blessing. You know, it's what we're here to do and explore. And it's never a bad thing, and can never be a bad thing unless we choose it to be so by doing exactly what I've said, like on purpose. Now, if we think and roll it into sort of knowing those are the laws of the working and or the beginnings, just a fundamental here to start with, and then we bring it into nowadays and look at the world that we sit in. The great task of the game is sort of see how very hard it is to do. And I had really come on, and I'm really on here kind of as a personal session to speak about these, you know, the struggle of the work, and, you know, that having this life and being, seeking to be alive in it and seeking to do good light and shadow work, so that I can keep as clear a vessel as possible, so that the things that exchange in and out of me, you know, are, I know them better and I can be more accountable of them, and that ensures that the working that comes out of them is more fluid and connected to the whole. And so I will hear better to the co-creative existence that I'm a part of. Because again, remember, we are all a part of this. There's an external reality here. There's a playscape or a game or a creation of God, perhaps, that if you like to look at it in that way. It really, it doesn't matter the ways that we choose to look at it. And we can look at them, and I like to look at it from every different way. I don't like to really stop and stand too long in one place. I like to get a look, and then I like to move on to the next one. And then if I prefer something or one is a favorite, I'll certainly return to them or discover more around that. But yeah, I like to keep it moving a lot for the most part. So I can really, you know, empathize and sympathize with people who are like me, who need change and movement, who see things very differently. But then again, I can also really resonate with those who stay put and those who can dig deep into one facet or one practice or belief or tradition. You know, maybe it's my Taurus sun. You know, I'm very routine. I don't like change unless I want change. I have to be the caller of the change, you know. I think that's kind of the funny thing about, oh, now I'm going to get off on a tangent about how we have Taurus in a 5-month, you know. But anyways, I will not do that. I will stay on point about truth and lies, because that's really what I was hoping to kind of get onto. being in this world that is so shadowy, being in your own self and being in my own self, a place that collects shadow, a house, a temple, a whole state, a vessel, if a world inside of itself, a universe of itself, the you, we put the you in universe, Y-O-U, right, into it. And sometimes I like to call it universion, right? Like we have our own versions of reality. We have these reality bubbles that we create and live within. We have our own versions of them that we take part in. And then we sort of co-create these other ones out there with others and step into them. And sometimes we bring things from them back with us, residue, or we even cling into them, or we stay in them, you know? But I really appreciate and like those visualizations of understanding like a reality bubbles. And if we are walking around with shadows and negativity, we're impressing upon all those places and spaces that kind of negativity, and it really collects. It takes its toll. No matter how much work we do, no matter how many good habits and hobbies that you think of and initiate and get going, or however many places that you reach Everest points of your practice and you think, oh, this is epic, this is bliss moment, this is it, there is inevitably the coming down. There is inevitably the trough after the peak. That adaptation of stimulus that happens. It says, okay, this has been here for a while now. Let's find something new or let's find something new in it, right? There must be another happening. And yeah, we can talk about things like Samadhi or Zen state or Buddha, Samasati, I think, could say that wrong, heaven, those totally checking out Zen states for extended periods of time. Yes, hours, days. We have heard stories yogis sitting for, days and weeks on end, and then, having been gone and saying no time passed at all. However, and these are amazing, and not to say that they don't exist, and I believe in them greatly, and I find great value in them, and for me, sometimes I think to myself, wow, I could, I could really peace out. I feel like I could like that. Perhaps people would say, oh, past lives were that, or I'm not quite sure, but, sometimes we make up these, not make them up, but we, what's the word? Allow our imagination to run away with. We sort of play up these fantasies, these fictions. We embellish and in a greater way. I think that's a beauty thing of human imagination and of source creation, creator consciousness in itself. It's a foundational happening of it. But again, the ways that we choose to wield it, how and when, of course, play a great role. Because it's a two-way street, and sort of we can choose what we present to the outside world versus what's happening on the inside world, right? Inside the universe of you, and with, like I was talking about before, with the different layers of the body vessel and the work to do and all of the happenings within just the universe of yourself. There's a lot of, potentiality. There's a lot of light and shadow. There's a lot of give and take happening. And so there's a lot of potentiality for different accumulation and variety of directions. Service is unlimited. It's an exploration of infinite potentialities. And so depending on how good we're doing work or not, that really plays a role on what we can experience out there in the world. And if we're telling the truth on the inside, we're more likely to tell the truth through the outside. And when we tell the truth of the outside finally, while having told the truth through the inside completely, those corrective castings of light and sending out of messages and frequencies and information, interactions, have a different pulse and fingerprint and impression on all those reality bubbles around you and all of those others around you as well. And the interactions and co-creations are going to be much different. The combinations rolled on the dice roll for the potentials in those playscape places, to speak, are going to be different because you're coming to with different odds behind you, backing you. We have to really remember and take conscious ownership of how we're walking up and around and playing into these places. And that comes with self-accountability on the inside first, and it's very difficult to do. I know because, it's years of trying, and yes, it gets easier, but it gets harder, and it changes, and it's the same. And it's almost something that could be ultimately maddening, if not to reach out to others and know that that is what the good work is. You have to keep up the good work in a good way with good love, and doing good service. And that's, it's not called easy. There's not an easy in there, right? And that in itself, is a lesson. But coming around to knowing there's others doing it as well, and that out of it comes positivity, pleasantness. It becomes more productive. It feels better in the end. That's undeniable. It's like when you do exercise and then you start to feel fit. If you keep up with an exercise routine for 30 days, if you haven't exercised in a long time and you keep up with an exercise routine for 30 days, you will feel so different. There'll be no going back. I speak from personal experience. But I'm just saying, I've talked to others, but that's if you only and actually do it, Lots of people will do it for show, and they'll hate the entire time that they do it, and they'll wait for 30 days to be over, That's a different approach, but that's, again, has to do with what you tell yourself about it. If you go at it from a place of service to the self, that you're creating health and wellness and taking time to give back to your body, which your body gives so much to you each day, if you start to see exercise to a good service to the self and the soul and the mind, and that by having a strong body, you're strengthening that triad of yourself, and that your overall service will reflect better, on a multitude of layers. You can't even imagine the work that it shifts and changes, And I say you can't even imagine it, not even to try to say, like, oh, do it, or try to push people like some kind of like counter psychology trick or whatever, I just say it because when you get it, you don't want to imagine it, because there's a great mystery to co-creation. There's great source involved. There's others involved, and we don't want to infringe upon free space out there. We want everyone to be able to walk up to it freely and put their impression as such, and it will be received at that divine time as such. That's the thing about positive service and clarity, telling the truth and honesty. There's no reason to remember or keep up or worry about future interactions and this and that, because what happens in the moment is truthful and honest. It's dealt with as it should be. And, that's the end of it. It's only when you're concerned about saving face or being seen in a certain light, or to hide aspects in some kind of way, or to reserve for self a certain amount, or designate to yourself a certain assumption or expectation beforehand, that it comes into play. When we really break it down and think about it, And this is things that I've noticed and I've taught myself and been working through since I worked through the systems thing originally. I got such great downloads through my first system series, 2022-23, I think. That, it's brought in such clarity to working that I've started to install and run throughout the systems of myself, and to find out these sort of deviations and go to them and be like, whoa, what's going on here? Why is this malalignment? Why are we having a distortion? And I have found time and time again that when I come from a place of unconditional love and a sovereign consciousness to correct things, like as a boss should, down to managers, trying to find out where the issue in the production line is, from a loving, caring place, there's always solutions to be had. There's always a root issue that's combed through, and productivity resumes, and in fact increases, and it ripples out into different ways that I didn't know about. And then I see, things shifting and changing in other ways and other aspects of myself, and again, it will call work to somewhere else, and that helps and gives way to something else. And it's such a wonderful, gratifying service that always is beneficial, even through hard times, even when it's uncomfortable catalyst, even if it's, say, a giant spill in the kitchen right at dinner time, and it takes a whole hour to clean, and I've got to move the fridge because even like pasta went under there, even a whole thing that somebody could really, sometimes I have at previous times in my life when I wasn't connected and, wouldn't allow myself to really just learn from the moment. It could have an absolute meltdown about that. But to be able to kind of laugh it off, to just know that the cleaning needs to get done anyways, and synchronicities happen when those sort of crazy events. I've always noticed too, when I can use an example like that. When something like that happens and I have to do like a real whole clean or something real quick, I will have noticed, oh wow, I didn't notice it was super dusty back here and I need to do that anyways. Or something's hidden back there that had like long lost something, and I'm like, whoa, that was here. Good thing we moved that, When you open yourself up, instead of screaming about it, so mad about it, how could we do this? Hating every moment of it, jerking things around, complaining and crying the whole time, not even being able to see or do anything because there's tears in your eyes and you're so mad or whatever, getting a headache over the whole thing. These are examples of my own from past times, To be able to move through that kind of thing with more grace and better, like I had talked about before, about different types of laughter and how to laugh things like that off, and how to reduce stress in a different way, and to move the body, and that is also okay. It has time and time again proven to me, cleaning, exercise, physical movement is such a great cleanse. It's such a physical helping hand to the whole mind and spirit, to really get rid of and move around anxiety, anger, rage, frustration, all of these sort of worst feelings that we can have, especially in catalytic moments that involve like other people too, Yeah, no, that I sort of gotten off on a tangent, and it's half an hour of nothingness. Not really. Every talk has meaning for myself. Who's to say for others? I guess it could just be a total ramble, but if you have stuck with me for this half an hour so far, thank you for listening. The truth of it is, the work's never done, and we're ever changing, and we are beings here in a world that is not perfect. We can all talk about what we're called to be, and we can focus on ascension and all of these things, and that's great to have a mind's eye and focus on that, but that belongs to the mental body, and we have to remember, like, we have a physicality, we have regular life to live through. We need to be present in every moment. We can't always be planning and projecting about future things. That should have a time and place that we should step out of and spend more time in our conscious everyday waking moments, and those, especially these days can be like an uncomfortable place. There's a lot of negativity to be found and placed upon us, you know. You have to actively seek the light in order to find it. But when you do, it's there. It's like, it's wonderful. It's a beautiful, shining spring day. All my trees are out there budding like a glorious yellow greenish. It's so beautiful. And of course, it's right after Easter. And what are we reminded of but rebirth with that in itself, and the great journey of Christ and the awakening, Christ consciousness, and what it is to become awakened and individuated on that hero's journey, the spiritual alchemist's journey, right? The true initiate and adept who goes on the actual service path, you know, the great path of service to the whole, that you have been divinely bestowed to walk uniquely this time, here in the now, right? We have to get back into it and honor it. And yeah, it comes with uncomfortabilities. It comes with acknowledging that, yes, I want best for me now. I hear myself now. I want truth and clarity. But I am of this world. I have been. I have edges and rough spots. There's things in, you know, my life, my past, quote unquote, that I wouldn't be, you know, that don't align with me now. And this is the other thing that sort of, you know, has to do with a lot with the world and lies and truth and what we're faced with and how we even can, you know, become honest. Because you'll have other people come around you and say, oh, this is who you are. Oh, this is who I remember you as. This is what you did before at this time or that time, this many years, or this many times that I ever saw you, or even if it's just one time. Think about how many people and faces and places you've been, and there's a bubble activity, an impression of you residing out there in the past. Time is not relative, right? It's something we cannot really logically plot and understand and create a great visual against, but we can imagine and we can create sort of an openness to say we're seeking to say that what it could be. And if time is not relative, and as we've been proven many a times, this life is not what it seems. Things are not exactly what they meet as the eye, right? There's no sense in denying the past because the past has happened. What had happened is only one thing, of course. That which has happened, recorded, the event, is one thing. However, it's also gone. You cannot really get back into it physically. And so we have a space in memory that is collective space, in the void, in great imagination space, in the collective reflective, this outer area, outer space that gets behind us, that holds all of these memories and energetic places. Now, our minds, spirits, and bodies, they're connected still back to that, and we have sort of a memory, and we can distort and place upon it any thoughts that we would like to from now back there. They go on top of the happenings, of course, because there's no denying the underlying truth that's always there. But thing on thing on thing gets piled on top of it, memories and just, you know, differences, and even clear on purpose lies, manipulative distortions for soul benefits, you know, get placed upon the past. And so we can't ever really do anything about that is the main lesson here. And again, just like spending time projecting out in the world, okay, well, you can project future ideas, and you can spend all the time in the world out there thinking about all the what ifs and could be's out there. But again, we're not there yet. And when we get there, it's a co-creative place of manyness, and you can't control the others. Just like the past, you can't deny the truth that's already happened. You know, when you can attempt to control others when we get there in the future, and then you can impose infringing negativity upon others and even enforceful action in the present moment to try to make your future come to fruition. Just like you can do reflective lies, and you can make up false memories, you can try to implant them, you can tell false stories, but at the end of the day, it doesn't change that truth under there. And when we just own that current that flows through that says, I choose to actually just want to know what that is. I'm not going to worry about any of the other things on top. I'm not going to play guessing games. I'm not going to fall down rabbit holes. I'm just going to stay in truth. That in itself creates this distinct ripple effect that courses through all of sort of the playscape and through the realities. And it works in a rebound effect, and it will bring to you, your consciousness, that cord from the past that tells the truth, of things. And if you need to remember the memory, if you need to bring up what had happened, if you need to call something back, it will come right up that, and it will be known as what was happened. The issue comes if you don't want to call, if you don't want to be told or seen in the way that was the truth. Then the distortion, I can't say that, there's this tie off, there's this trip up, there's this bending of light before it comes to the present moment. But you know the thing immediately, and if we don't know the thing, there's a reaching and an asking that can happen with divine connection to source that will bring back and tell you through collective spirit layer your answers. And again, you can deny, you can bend them up, you can excuse them away, you can say those aren't true, but they're there. Now, matrix overlay, I believe archonics, the archons have archonic structures in this working that have on that pipeline strangulation techniques or mind control. They have all of these kinds of reflective, mirrored, bounce back things that distort and want to change or siphon off of or blockade spirit layer to every individual. And that's the initial attack mode. And that happens through every layer. I think they really attack that with certain mechanisms. And I won't get into that. And I've talked about that in long ago over on my BitChute channel under the Negative Agenda's Tricks and Traps. So if you search Tricks and Traps Negative Agenda over there with my name on my channel, you'll find a whole bunch of those. I think I might even have it as a playlist, some of them. It's so hard to make a playlist on BitChute that like half the videos never get actually added to the playlists. But I did a bunch of talks on these kind of mind control mechanisms and stuff for a while. Maybe 2021. Could have been 22, I forget. But they're still very relevant. Not to say that they're not relevant. It's just that I would love to focus on positive techniques and do positive working instead of spend all my time designated into negativity, But it's important that we know that it's there. Important that we pay homage to what's happened and what is still happening, and that we don't turn a blind eye to it, and that we don't give it wiggle room, because the negative infringements will always want to be reaching out for strangulation. Its fingertips are ever reaching for more throats to grab, more light to grasp and to siphon off of, or to put out, or to take hold of, because that's what its truth tells it. It has to have more. Don't hate the player, hate the game. That the negative's just doing what they're doing because that's the role they have to play. The space calls for it. There's a duality function at hand. That's the mechanism, of the workings here for now. So, but when we honor it, and then when we can see and try to offer service and at least provide some corrective measures, some harmonious solutions, let it know that compromise is available to it. Be surprised at the reactions and responses received. You know, I know I have been in my own life and workings, and I have can only say that it's, 10 years of my life, 11 years of my life have I even had a spiritual awakening. And it hasn't even been since the last 5 that I've really had the legwork started to even understand deeper within myself, turn the lens inwards and really get going on my own self and wanting what's best for myself, and to stop turning that lens outwards and worrying about others, putting my self-work off, having a focus that's detrimental, and not worrying about where really the gas pedal is at, and having excuses and putting, always thinking things are more important than the small work for myself. And it's like, yeah, we know there's I always keep telling myself there's great work to be had, yes, but we can't fill cups if our cup's not full. And in fact, when we fill our own cup when it needs to be, we'll find that it maintains an ever-flowingness to itself. And then it's so much more fluid in a response and receptivity and retribution, that you learn your cycles better, and there's not as catastrophic peaks and troughs. When we have our lens focused inwards more than outwards, and spending time on the inner universe more than the outer universe, we actually deal with the outerverse better. We kind of get in this counteractive motion where you think, oh, I won't be prepared for the outer world, or something like that. But that's actually rooted in negative activity. That's rooted in lies. And this is how I break myself out of this sort of mind habits. Because if I'm speaking from the truth and honoring my truth and going to live in the truth, then I can't be setting mandates and restrictions, and I can't be sort of worrying about the past and combing through trying to find offenses and correct them either, because that stagnates the present moment. I'm not alive in the present moment when I'm doing that, right? And so I have to be able to let those things go at the moment freely, and pass judgment as should be in the moment, and let things go to the past as they can, and enliven the present moment as much as I can. And that entrusts that each present moment is full. And then worrying about the future doesn't really come into the potentials that much, unless it's a project building and something that has due timing in the real world. And that's different. That's not playing off hypotheticals and anxiety spiraling or what ifs, or trying to cast out these negative wishes and wills upon others, infringe in their mental space to make them do things that you think are best for them or better for your situations, and make these kind of things happen, and sort of remote control people. It's like, yeah. O ye of little faith. I just love it. I just love that saying too. And it's just like, I speak to myself too. And when I catch up myself of that, I laugh at myself with everyone, because I have been and I can be in that place and space. It's a hard life here. Here we are up on an hour of me blabbing, and I haven't even gotten to what I was hoping to blab about, which was sort of the hardships of telling the truth to myself, and the hardships of being in a life that has at times I've been, not perfect. I'm not trying to claim I'm even perfect now. I want to work towards my most perfect self, but that doesn't have anything to do with a sort of stagnant state. It has nothing to do with shiny, happy newness. It's like, yeah, I need a different word, I guess, for it. Perhaps we'll get there one day. But I think the act of working through it is how we get there one day, right? This isn't the doing. I'm not there. And who cares about it? If someone is there and has better verbiage for it, I'd love to hear about it. As I always say, please feel free to leave comments, send me emails. If you use Telegram, find me over there. You can send me a message over there. It's a little easier to converse back and forth on that platform than it is on YouTube or BitChute. But emails are cool too. My email's always in the descriptions. because I'm, definitely, looking to hear from others and seeking out impressions of how others take this kind of information, how they feel about telling the truth and telling the truths of themselves. And if they're also doing this work, finding it unbelievably difficult, you know? But in itself, in the difficulties, it feels good. Just like right now, I'm super sore from exercising and also from being out a lot more. It's been nicer out, and I've been a little bit hiking in the back, doing yard work, moving a lot of trees around. I've been cleaning a lot of cabins and rooms more. But it feels great. Yeah, it has a sort of exhaustion to it. There's a stressing feeling to it, but there is a strength in it. There's this different energetic sense within the core that comes out. And whether it's chi or prana, it's aliveness. I like to think of it as, this like conscious awareness, the spirit layer of me alive, feeling the flow through my everyday. I talked a lot about that again back at the systems series, and when I got into speaking about the body and how when we have body consciousness and actually paying attention to the subtle body, how you walk across the room. Are you aware of the way you place your feet on the ground? How do you hold your shoulders? Where's your energy at? Are you cultivating happy energy within you that's uplifting, that has grace to it? Or is there stagnancy? Is it sluggish? Are you slumped? You know, these are things that I love yoga for, of course, because it helps me to learn more about my body. And I've come from a place that I was super disconnected and shut off from body stimulus and sensory things, and to come back alive into myself, it's been so amazing. It continues to amaze me. I'm nowhere, nowhere there yet. I'm a total student of this. But it's amazing, and I'm approaching now my 38th year, and I'm really going to be coming alive into the sort of woman life and being more alive in that sense. I'm hoping maybe to do a women's series or have conversations with women. It'd be so nice to have a women's group. If any women are out there, no offense to men, love all men, and men can get it too. We all have divine feminine within ourselves and stuff like that. I'm not trying to discourage anything like that. But as an older woman, and I don't even know much about sort of the change of life when that kind of stuff comes upon us. I went through my younger years in such a blind state, and my mothering, I went through very much without a mother. I don't really have a mother. Oh, that's what I should probably mention too. I don't have great connection to my mother. She wasn't around through my childhood. I had spotty connection through my teenage years with her, and haven't talked to her in years. I haven't talked to her since the beginning of COVID, because she took a total stance of craziness, and I just was not, I just couldn't go with it. And so basically I haven't talked to her since then. And before that I was very spotty with her here and there, like once a year. I might see her in if Christmas or Thanksgiving, and maybe once in the summer, So anyways, thinking of women's groups and things that women can get together to talk about, especially like things you'd want to speak about women's health and wellness, I'd really love to have or find women in that sense. I have one great friend who I know would be probably interested in creating a group like that, but of course, it would take other responses. But I do think, there's a great potentiality and a need for a humble, open space for women, for myself as well. I know, I would really benefit from it. Anyways, that's a sort of truth. That's sort of something that I feel, yeah, sort of off topic, but also can end the long overdue ending of this hour-long talk about nothingness, really, but truth, and finding my own truths, living in my truth, and what it is like, and just the difficulties, and all these different things that come up, got me thinking, and to be able to have a place to just speak some of it out is really helpful. So thanks for listening, even the men out there. Especially the men out there. I'm not trying to knock them at all. I think, I have a husband and 2 sons. I'm surrounded by men. And nothing more do I respect, honor, and find value in than good men and good service of that side of the coin. And I find, there is such a value in it. Women need it. It's something that you offer, a dynamic that's just not possible for us in so many different layers and ways. And the contrasts are beautiful. And then there's so many parallels, and we all do have aspects of divine masculine and feminine within us all that we can cultivate. Those are truths, of course, in their own. But in itself, truthfully speaking, and I know this is a sort of controversial thing out there with all these people who are trying to just discern what a woman can and can't be or anything like that, but in my standing and my standpoint, I stand behind a common truth that says, what you're born is what you are, and that for myself as a woman, I have certain things that I just find more comfortable speaking and sharing around women only, and would not find comfortable having men there. I don't care what kind of clothes that you like to put on, or what kind of makeup you're wearing. When it comes down to speaking about women's health and wellness and that kind of stuff, that's just, you cannot relate. And there's nothing like having private conversations that are intimate like that, within your own kind. Dare I say it? Oh my goodness, that's a whole other thing, but there's sacred boundaries, I believe, are created and should be respected, in means. It's not to say that there aren't windows and gateways and pores, and there's no locks and bounds and absolutely no transactions allowed, and we don't interact, and no. But it's meant to say that there are private moments, there is intimate spaces, there is, what's the word? Modesty. Dare we bring back modesty? I hate to sound like a prude, but I've been called prudish many times, because of the culture. Everything's hypersexualized. It's out of control. And I myself have come from an absolute over amplification and extreme aversions from that, and I see the incorrectness. I see how detrimental seeking of worth through sexual gratification is, or even through sexual value. And I see how, as a child and even as a young adolescent and a teenager, how it was pushed upon me to be of use in that service only, or of best, and of most obvious, and that's the first way and best way. And it's just the incorrectness of it is demonic in my eyes now. It is absolutely an inverted teaching that has a real slave master shackle to it, to the matrix overlay. And that is an anti-human culture that seeks to destroy the organic creator consciousness that is humans, destroy the divine feminine and the divine masculine. And, from the ashes we will rise, I know. Speaking of Easter and the day after Easter and just the sacrifice of that, the crucifixion, the fact that you will be persecuted, and whether you believe in Jesus or not, whether you're Christian or not, whether you don't even think it was real or it happened, how many people throughout time have been chased down for speaking truth? You can't deny that. Even scientists in their white coats bow down to Copernicus. They bow down to Galileo. How many people were ridiculed? They were exiled from mainstream at the time. But they were right. They are their saviors now, So you can find a fitting character for whatever tradition, tribe, and time you choose to play the story and tell it. But the story goes on, the show goes on, and here we are. And it is what it is. It's frustrating. It's beautiful. It's a divine comedy. What can we do but live our life alive, play our role, be alive in it, be of good service, do the good work, right? Try to find the good feelings. Can't deny, though, it can be difficult. Especially, when you look inside yourself and there's things that need to be worked on. There's, comparatively, I look at the things that I'm working on, the things that I do, and the sort of bad habits that I have that aren't really completely aligned with who I'd like to be, totally. And then I compare it to some of these people that I see come through where I live and work at, motel and campground, and then you think you got problems. And then you bear witness to, people who have a serious problem with drugs, like the drugs around these days, like, or even serious drinking problem or serious health problems. You see people who are, facing catastrophic financial issues or epic sort of dark nights of the soul where their whole, what they thought was their life has fallen apart. They've lost their house, they've lost their wife, they've had somebody do them wrong and they've been evicted, or they've sought help and can't find it. There's so many people on hard times. And then again, there's so many others who I see who are taking advantage, who are bending incorrectly, and they're having others bend over backwards to help them while they won't even reach up, and they're claiming that they are so disabled, they are so incapacitated, and in fact they're not. It's that they are intoxicated in their own lies and negativity, and whatever shadows are infesting them, that they're refusing to even do the work, do any good work, and they've convinced themselves that others do the work and that can fix it. And I can at least say to myself, I'm not looking for others to fix my issues. I look to myself to do my good work. I admit that I'm not perfect and that I have made changes, but I have made mistakes, and every day I seek to better myself. Claim to know all the answers, and just sharing practice points and techniques, things that I have found ease in, how I've found positivity, how I've found betterment, the things that I have released chains and shackles and gotten closer to truth and light and love and felt better, because at the end of the day, that's really what it's all about, isn't it? Like finding better you, feeling better, your best self, being able to, when you do die, when you do meet your maker, whatever you think happens at the end of this life, don't you want to meet it with your best face? Don't you want to have done your best work? You know, you can't fix right things. You can't write things afterwards. So why don't you just write them now as best as you can? Instead of hiding, say, oh, that'll never, it can't be. They're gone, this person's not here, this is that, these excuses. It's not about any other even. Missing the whole point. When you start to flip the lens again, start looking out there. You're never going to find answers out there. It's inwards, it's in you that you seek forgiveness, that you find the solutions and the harmonious forgiveness and answers that you need to release and let go. And to actually say to yourself, I do deserve to feel good, and I don't deserve to be bogged down by this nonsense from the past. Whether I'm playing a victim of it or holding on to it in some kind of other self-serving manner. You know? So, I guess I'm going to leave it there. Here's to speaking my truth and attempting to. And thanks for listening again. I know I've said it a couple of times, but I'm really signing off now. And I really do thank you for listening if you stuck around for this whole thing. If by chance you're looking for anything more from me in the meantime, before I put out new content, you could always find a bunch of videos on my BitChute, like I mentioned before, or over on YouTube. If you're finding this now, you're finding my new channel, which is a.Marie.Speaks 2, the number 2. Original a.Marie.Speaks is I've been locked out of, but that does have about 300 videos back over there. I have some links in the description to that channel if you're looking for older content from me. You can find those links there. You could always just find me right on my website, a.Marie.Speaks.com. That has a plethora of free, always free, freely offered tips, tools, and services, both my own and third party, things that I've found by others that I've found very helpful are over there on my tools page. All types of things, a bunch of different categories on introspection, spirituality, happiness, esoteric things, numerology, astrology, metaphysics, health and wellness. So if you're looking for resources or references in your eternal student's growth, and there's plenty of things over there that could be like great coursework. If you're interested in finding that stuff on your own time, it's always there at your convenience for free at a.Marie.Speaks.com. If you do use Telegram, I'm on that platform, and you can find me over there on a.Marie.Speaks. Link in the description. I hope you have a beautiful day or evening wherever in the world you are. Thank you so much for listening to me. Thanks for witnessing my contribution to the collective, and thank you for yours. I will see you next time.